Hello and a very warm welcome. Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone virtually gathered today for an insightful session by Dr. Ajit Ranade on the economics of Indian electoral process. The session opens the second day of EcoDocs 3.0, the annual festival of Mind Over Matter, the Economic Society of Ahmedabad College, University of Delhi. We are starting the session a few minutes before Dr. Ranade joins, as there won't be any question and answer session today. So please keep your mics off and your cameras off. I'm Vaibhav Vivek Sahi, and I'm the moderator for today. EcoDocs 3.0 is a celebration of ideas of economics and is an effort by us to deliver you lectures from the most esteemed economists in their respective fields. The fest is organized by Mind Over Matter, which was established in 2015. We are the torchbearers of the economics department of Ahmedabad College and are a group of highly motivated individuals who have an affinity towards the subject. We strive to bring out the true beauty of the subject and make it easy to understand for everybody. Our vision is to enhance the financial and economic literacy of the youth and also to be an active part of academia. As a stride in the same direction, we proudly publish our annual magazine, Viewpoint, every year. Viewpoint is a heterogeneous amalgamation of economic ideas and academic opinion pieces from students all around the country. The 2022 issue of the magazine launches this March. Please check it out on our Insta handle and our college website. We're all waiting for Dr. Ranade to join, and as soon as he joins, we'll begin. I'll remind everyone again that today there won't be any question and answer session, so please be all ears to Dr. Ranade when he comes. Dr. Ranade is joined. So today's speaker, Dr. Ranade, is someone who needs no introduction. But as the courtesy goes, I'd ask Jatin Jain to introduce the speaker. Thank you, sir, for coming.
So we feel immense pride to welcome our guest speaker for the session, Dr. Ajit Ranade. Dr. Ranade is the Vice Chancellor of Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Pune. He has Bachelor's in Technology from IIT Bombay and MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and a PhD in Economics from Brown University, US. He has taught at Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, Mumbai for 5 years, before which he has also taught at universities in several nations in US. He has also published several academic papers and had participated in several national and international seminars. Dr. Ranade was professor at ICRIER, New Delhi.
Thank you, sir, for gracing our festival with your benevolent presence. I hope it will be gratifying for the audience. Without further ado, let's start the session. I would like to request our acting principal, ma'am, Professor B. Mangalam, to share her kind and enlightening word with the audience and the esteemed speaker, after which we'll hand over the virtual mic to Dr. Ranade.
Thank you, Akshit. A very warm welcome to everyone at today's webinar. And it's a great privilege and immense pleasure to me to welcome on behalf of Ahmedabad College, Professor Ranade to today's session. He's not only an eminent academic, he's also a very popular columnist. And I have read many of his columns in the eminent journals, finance journals. And today's topic again is very engaging, and we are all looking forward, sir, along with students and faculty. I once again extend a warm welcome to you and look forward to hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Ranade to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am, Principal Mangalam. And I hope the audio is okay. I'm using my earpod. Is that okay?
Yes, sir, that's completely fine.
Yeah, thank you. So good morning to all of you, and thank you for inviting me today. And I propose that maybe I will speak for 15 minutes or so, and then can we have maybe another 10-15 minutes of interaction? Is that okay?
Yes, sir, that would be lovely.
So I will request you to moderate the questioning, or maybe the whoever is participating can directly ask me questions. So we will try to keep it interactive, because I think that is the most effective way of sharing knowledge or our understanding. So the topic is about electoral processes and the economics of it. To begin with, elections in India are conducted at various levels. I mean, you people probably in a college, I don't know, you probably have elections for class representatives. At the university level, perhaps we have elections for university president, students president. We have elections for, in our RWAs, residential welfare associations, or in Mumbai, they are called cooperative housing societies. So elections are very much part of our life. And but today I want to focus on elections which actually where we elect our representatives, people's representatives or political representatives. So we have elections at the lowest tier of government, which is the local government, that we can call Gram Panchayat or village council or a district board. Jilla Parishad, as we call it, or it could be at the municipality, the municipal government, like in Delhi, you would call it MCD, Municipal Corporation of Delhi, or NDMC, New Delhi Municipal Corporation. So we have elections for them. They're called corporators, I guess, in an urban setting. That's the lowest, in the three-tier system that we have in India, that is the lowest tier, where the city or the village government is elected by the people. And I'm happy to say that thanks to the 73rd and 74th Amendment to India's Constitution, which was passed in 1992, almost 30 years ago, In fact, April 24th is the anniversary of that. It's going to come up in 2 months. We have now, it is constitutionally required that the third tier of government, village councils and municipalities, have to have elections. And these are conducted by the State Election Commission. These are not conducted by the Election Commission of India, which is currently conducting elections in the 5 states, as Uttar Pradesh and Punjab and Goa and Manipur and Uttarakhand. I'm not referring to that. Every state of India has a state election commission, thanks to the 73rd and 74th Amendment, and that is responsible for electing those representatives who are members of the village council, the Gram Panchayat, or the municipality. So we are not going to be talking about that, but I'm happy to report that many states of India have instituted 1/3 reservation for women. So we have perhaps across the country 6 lakh villages. So roughly, let's say, let's take, there are some 4 lakh elections, suppose, and they each have 10 members, so 40 lakh elected representatives. Out of that, imagine 1/3, so more than almost 3 or 4 million elections. And out of that, 1/3 are women. I mean, not all states have instituted that. So that's an astounding, amazing statistic. But today, I'm going to focus on so all these elections need money to run. Okay, I'm not talking about the candidates who are standing for elections spending money. I'm talking about just the election machinery. The paperwork involved, the EVMs, the fact that they have to have election, returning officers, they have to be posted, the EVM boxes have to be transported back and forth, the expenditure involved. So that you can imagine that, for example, a state like Maharashtra has to conduct 28,000 elections. 28,000 elections. Each election has to be done with the same level of integrity and carefulness. But today, again, as I said, sometimes we just forget that there is a huge election machinery that's going on at the local government level. The national media and the public attention is focused on either parliament elections, where we are focused on whether Prime Minister Modi is going to, or Rahul Gandhi is going to win or not. So that gets, or else at the state elections, where we are looking at whether Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath will be re-elected or not. So the amount of attention is disproportionate, I believe, but that's the way it is. We can't help it. And incidentally, I'll again give you the example of Maharashtra, where I live. In Maharashtra, for the third tier, there are 28,000 elections conducted. But for the assembly, there are only 244 seats. So there are 244 different elections, right? 244 seats in the assembly and 48 seats in the Lok Sabha. So there are 48 elections. So the Election Commission of India, as far as the state of Maharashtra is concerned, is conducting only 48 elections for electing the member of parliament, that is Lok Sabha, and 244 elections to elect MLA, member of Legislative Assembly, or Vidhan Sabha. But when we talk about electoral expenses, we focus on the MLAs and MPs, okay? And the work of ADR, of course, is in electoral reforms or election watch activities to keep a watch whether the election process is indeed has integrity. We want to have free and fair and clean elections without fear. People should be able to, without any coercion or fear. And an organization like ADR, we are involved in trying to push these as a citizens organization, push these ideas. So when it comes to the economics of it, why is this important? Because, for example, if you take the central government, not even a rupee can be spent, not even a single rupee can be spent by the government or our the elected government without the consent of the people. Not even a rupee. Uska matlab kya hai ki the budget, the proposal to spend money for one financial year needs the permission of the people. But obviously 1.3 billion people are not going to give permission one by one. So we authorize our representatives So each one of us who are voters, and I believe in this audience, hopefully all of you are above the age of 18. So you're all potential voters. So we authorize our representatives on our behalf. On our behalf, you give the consent. So we have these 543 representatives that we have sent to Parliament, and they will give the okay. And for example, recently on 1st of February, we had the finance minister presenting this proposal that I am going to spend 39 lakh crores, 39 trillion rupees on behalf of all of you. That's almost, 30,000 or 35,000 rupees per man, woman, and child of India. So this is the union budget proposal, and that will be passed by the representatives. So that's when I say elections and economics, one aspect of this you must understand is that why are elections important? Because we actually authorize this through the election process. We authorize this spending, and it's a huge amount of spending. 39 lakh crores or 39 trillion rupees represents something like 15-17% of GDP in one go. In one go, you're going to authorize that kind of spending. And if you add to that the state governments, if you add to that village panchayats, if you add to that the NREGA spending, if you add to that the municipalities, huge. It's like maybe 30% of GDP. When you're trying to take daily decisions of whether to spend 500 rupees or not, if your parents are thinking of buying a flat, which is worth 10 lakh rupees, kitna sochna padta hai? In one go, we are authorizing 39 lakh crores. That's what the budget proposal is. And that's the importance of this representative democracy. That, the American Revolution, in the modern times, the original democracy is the American democracy. Because in 1776, they declared independence from Britain. And the reason there was this independence movement or in America was because of this basic principle of no taxation without representation. Because, as you know, there was this famous Boston Tea Party, and no taxation without representation. So taxes can be imposed on us only if we have representatives in Parliament. So that's the kind of one very important element to remember. And what happens is that we forget that that not only the size of the budget matters, but how is the government spending? Is it okay to spend thousands of crores on statues? And is it okay to cut funding for, say, hospitals and new colleges? Is it okay to make allocate more money for, whatever? I'm trying to sort of be provocative here, but if you look at the total budget that India has for education. And then if you look at the total budget we have for paramilitary forces, let's say, border security force. I'm not talking about the defense forces, I'm talking about internal police. So these kind of trade-offs are important. And therefore, as citizens and voters, hamari nigrani rehni chahiye. Matlab, we have to not only keep and watch on the representatives, how they are voting for the budget proposals, but also during the year, how is that money spent? So that's the importance. So very quickly, let me turn to actual election expenditures. Okay, I'm talking about the economy is important, and therefore elections are the way by which we authorize these expenditures. But let's look at the election expenditures per se. How much money is spent on elections per se? So here I have a chart. Can I just share this? Let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, so I'm going to show you. Oh, gosh. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, we can.
So this shows you the spending that goes on India's elections. So if you look at the last, about 24 years, these are national elections, okay? These are only elections to the Vidhan Sabha, that is the Parliament. In 1998, the total, this is an estimate by an organization called Center for Media Studies. So this is not authentic Government of India data, because the actual official data is probably much lower than this, but this is done by Center for Media Studies. It has gone up by 600%, sixfold in the last 20 years. India's GDP has increased perhaps by 3 times, or maybe 3.5 times. So this has grown faster than India's GDP. I think it has grown faster even than the stock market, or almost as fast. So in 1998, the expenditure on the national elections was barely less than 10,000 crores. Today, it is, not today, 2019, the last one that we had, the estimate is 55,000 crores. 55,000 crores. And this makes India's elections one of the most expensive in the world. Actually, it is. This turns out to be about $8 billion in dollar terms. In 2019, it's $8 billion. Even the American presidential election, which is supposed to be very, very expensive, that's about $3 billion. Of course, you can say that American election is only about 2 people, presidential election, whereas here we are electing 543 people. But even then, for a country whose per capita income is $2,000, America's per capita income is $50,000. So they're 25 times bigger in just per capita terms. Can we afford, is this the right? So this is the kind of spending on elections. The next chart I just want to quickly show is in 2019. So by the way, just in this chart, there is a breakup of how much did the BJP spend, or their BJP and allies. That's estimated to be about 28,000 crores. And then Congress and its allies spent 10,000 crores, and everybody else spent about 13,000 crores. So obviously the winning party spent much more than the other parties. Then if you look at the various expenditure heads, what is this money spent on? What is 55,000 crores spent on? So this is the breakup again given by the Center for Media Studies. On campaign and publicity, 35%. See, in 2014, we saw the first time this concept of a hologram. Mr. Modi was campaigning. He was then a candidate. He was campaigning across the nation, but he could not be present simultaneously in many places, and there's no way he can cover the entire nation. So they introduced a concept of hologram. So the same, and simultaneously the speech could be delivered in different locations. So this kind of slick campaigning and publicity, use of social media, use of electronic media, use of various digital techniques, maybe social WhatsApp messaging, all that costs money. So campaign and publicity, the estimate is 35%. 1/3 of this 55,000 crores was spent on. So that means it's almost 18,000 crores was spent on just campaign publicity. Secondly, on voters directly, 1/4 of it. Now, I don't know whether this means bribing the voter or in what way, indirectly bribing. You give something in kind, not in cash. The Election Commission's expenditure, which is formally reported, is only 1/5. So only the official expenditure is only 11,000 crores. Out of 55,000 crores, only 11,000 crores is the official spending. Everything else is unofficial. Logistics, which is, senior leaders, they go here and there by helicopters, by aircraft, private aircrafts, jets. All that cost money. Or transporting large rallies, people in buses, that costs money. So the petrol, the rentals for the aircrafts and the buses, 10%. So that's almost 5,000 crores. Miscellaneous, I don't know what they're heading. Various other expenditure, perhaps distribution of food and the popular sort of metaphor is biryani, liquor and biryani distribution. But remember, voters directly, 1/4. So something like 13,000 crores. And if you see, we have 700 million or about 70 crore voters, out of which say 35 or 40 crore voters voted. So 13 or 14,000 crores distributed to 40 crore people. You do the math. So let me just stop sharing this. So, I mean, basically, you can imagine that how expensive elections are. But that does not mean that we should not have elections, okay? I hope you guys are not getting that message. That also does not mean that how can we somehow curtail. By the way, just a few weeks ago, the Election Commission has hiked the expenditure limit. You know, every now and then per candidate, kitna paisa spend kar sakte hain officially. So it used to be 70 lakhs, now it has gone up to 95 lakhs for Lok Sabha, and for Vidhan Sabha it has gone up to 70 lakhs. So it's almost a crore, you can see. But you know, unofficial spending, agar 1 crore allowed hai and 540 candidates hain, so 540 crore hoga, correct? But let's say there are 10 times, 540 are elected, 543, let's say there are candidates जो इलेक्शन को खड़े रहते हैं वो 10 गुना है, so 5,000 होंगे. तो ऑफिशियल स्पेंडिंग पूरा का पूरा स्पेंड करेंगे तो अभी 1 crore हो गया है, पहले 70 lakhs था. So 5,000 into 1 crore will be 5,000 crores. Total spending will be 5,000 crores. 55,000 crores. देखा आपने? 10 times. So that's the economics of it. And लोग कहते हैं कि during elections, there is a lot of distribution of cash. So that distribution, there is a famous saying of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, 1985 में. ये बोलते थे कि out of every 100 rupees that government of India spends, only 15 rupees reaches the poor. मतलब 85 rupees leakage हो जाता है, lost हो जाता है. But during elections, जब 1,000 रुपए का नोट तो अभी चला गया, 2,000 रुपए का नोट when it goes to the voter, पूरा का पूरा 2,000 रुपया वोटर को मिलता है, no leakage. So there are so many elements in ensuring that free and fair elections go. We have to find out a way how can we energize or incentivize or inspire the voters to say कि मेरा वोट मेरे को बेचना नहीं है, my vote is not for sale. But that sentiment, sometimes there is so much cynicism. बोलते हैं कि anyway elected people, elected representatives काम करेंगे या नहीं पता नहीं, at least election में पैसा मिल रहा है तो हम ले लेंगे. But this mansikta, this kind of psychology has to be, that's why citizens organizations, people like you, your student organizations have to work very hard and vigorously to find out a way. How can we tell? Because, all this money that is spent, unofficial amount, I told you, officially limit is 1 crore, but they're spending 10 times more. This money is spent not because of charity. This money is not spent out of goodwill. This money is not donation. It is going to be recovered by, unfortunately, unfair means. Through giving contractors, through giving special contract kickbacks, तो बड़ी समस्या है, and that's why it's important to curb spending on elections, because that will eventually reduce the amount of wastage in government spending, and hopefully level of corruption will come down. It's a very big topic, so I'm going to just this was my thematic, but I'm happy to take some questions and then I will hand it back to you. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So we'll open the stage for question and answers. If anybody of you has a question, please drop it in the chat box. And you can also raise your hand and speak the question out loud.
Yeah, I'm happy to take directly if somebody wants to ask. Yeah, Mr. Akshit Gupta.
Yeah, I had a very simple question. So if you want to curb spending, how do you suggest we do that? I don't feel like just putting government regulations or a price or a ceiling on how much spending a party can do would work, because like you said, only 1/4 of the actual expenditure is actually reported.
1/5. So Mr. Akshit Gupta, your question is, if you want to curb spending, kaisa kare? Right? That's the question, no? So there is a supply and demand aspect to it. Agar demand kam ho jayega, to automatically supply kam ho jayega. See, it looks like there is competitive spending on elections because एक party सोचती है कि अगर मैं spend नहीं करता हूँ and my rival candidate is spending and distributing cash to the voters, I will stand to lose. So a race to the bottom हो जाता है. But what happens is when both candidates are outspending each other, there is no guarantee that who will win. But both are compelled, जैसे मजबूर हो जाते हैं. They are helpless. So they're caught in this Nash equilibrium or prisoner's dilemma, you can call it. On the other hand, we also have to increase our level of vigilance. For example, the Election Commission must insist that all expenditure statements are honestly reported. I told you that election limits per candidate has been hiked to 95 lakhs. It used to be 70 lakhs. You will be surprised to know that official spending jo karte hain candidates, because they have to report audited statements, to the expenditure Election Commission. Officially, they are not even able to exhaust 50% of the limit. आप देख लीजिए इलेक्शन कमीशन वेबसाइट पे all the election spending data is there from candidates and parties. Officially, they are not even able to spend 50%. मतलब उनका limit exhaust भी नहीं होता है. So when you are saying, Akshit, that we should raise the limit, actually raise करने से कुछ फायदा नहीं, because they say officially we are not even, हमको 70 lakh allowed है, हम barely 35 lakh spend कर पा रहे हैं. So the problem is that, the solution lies, long-term solution lies in where people will stop accepting payments. People will stop saying, I think people should just, there should be unless people, the voters come together and say, no, there are places in India, there are places, villages who say, don't come to us offering bribes. अगर आप पैसा देंगे तो हम आपको वोट नहीं देंगे. My vote is not for sale. There was a campaign we ran under ADR. वो उसमें ऐसा लिखा था, जो आपका वोट खरीदेगा वो देश को बेचेगा. अगर पैसा खर्च हो रहा है, जो आपका वोट खरीदेगा, जो आज आपको वोट खरीदेगा वो कल देश बेचेगा. These kind of sentiments have to be spread. I think it's nothing. I feel the long-term solution, Akshit, is not just having more regulation. Incidentally, the government of India does not regulate the spending. It is the Election Commission of India. They are the responsible for regulating elections. So, unki nigrani, unki vigilance has to increase. But beyond a limit, unless the demand side of the, there is, in any transaction, there's a supply side factor and there's a demand side factor. Unless demand goes down, I don't know. Okay, this seems to be.
Thank you, sir. I hope it solves Akshit's question. Vishal Pandey, you can go next.
Good morning, sir. I have a question, sir. Like, election used to get as a tax benefit, and it's become a business nowadays. And political parties are using, political parties are on their path to become a unicorn. And there is a more money representation in the country than a people's representation. So what do you think we have to do to stop all these things and to maintain the soul of constitution? Because at the end, the company, which is the political party, are in the power. So what we have to do?
Wonderful question, Vishal. And first, number one, I hope you are bothered about it. I'm very happy to note that you are bothered about it, right? आपको परेशानी है कि ऐसा हो रहा है. Correct, Vishal?
Yes, sir.
So there are a lot of people who are not even bothered about it. A lot of people who become cynical about it. So first step is that you are bothered कि ये ठीक नहीं हो रहा है. Elections have to be cleaner, fair and free and without fear factor, without coercion, without किसी के ऊपर दबाव नहीं आना चाहिए. So that's the first step. The very first step is that I'm very happy to note that you're bothered about it कि कुछ करना है. Second, मैंने कहा ना कि candidates and parties spend money because there is a constituency to receive the money. Let's not forget, ताली दो हाथ से बजती है. So we can't just keep blaming the politician because politician बोलते हैं कि हम तो हमको करना पड़ता है. So the longer term solution is of course to inspire, motivate, incentivize, and voter awareness, voter education is very important. But in the meantime, we can also do things like can we have more cleaner candidates who don't believe in bribing the voter? So हमारा एक बड़े 20-25 साल से कैंपेन चल रहा है. Can we at least insist कि candidates जो खड़े रहते हैं, we should not allow anybody with a criminal record to stand for elections. This is a very simple law. In most countries it is there. Nobody with a criminal case should be standing for election. But unfortunately, this law cannot be passed by Election Commission because it's just a regulatory agency. This law can be passed only by Parliament. So we can insist, we can tell our elected representatives कि ऐसा एक law pass कीजिए, ये electoral reform जरूरी है. And then, of course, the second thing we can do is insist on more transparency. कहाँ से पैसा आ रहा है? You see, I only talked about expenditure, but income को भी देखो ना, ये पैसा कहाँ से आ रहा है? उसके ऊपर निगरानी रखिए. So we were saying that it should be more transparent, it should be more in the form of checks and disclosures. लेकिन we have this strange system called electoral bond. Electoral bond ऐसी चीज है कि nobody, by law, nobody is allowed to know who is donating and who is getting. Can you believe this electoral bond law was passed in 2017 or 18 in the interest of more transparency? But what it has achieved is exactly the opposite. कि more opacity हो गया. मतलब George Orwell will be very happy about this use of word. So we should insist that there should be more transparency about funding. So there are all these steps to be taken. Thanks. So next is Kabir, I guess.
Yes, sir. Kabir Jha. Kabir, you can speak up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much, sir, for taking up the time. And I'm so sorry, sir, for the background noise. Sir, my question is, so, sir, we do know that there are some parties that have a lot of allure over the voters, if I'm not mistaken. There are some national parties who have a large base of support, and they naturally get more donations and they have a larger budget. And their motives might be, their ulterior motives might not be that, I don't know, clean, and they might not be they might not be that beneficial for the democracy of the country. Now, there are some other parties who might have a smaller appeal, and their voter base isn't as strong as their competitors. But and naturally, their donations and the budget that they have is smaller in comparison to others. So, do you think, sir, there should be like an egalitarian playing field where both the parties have an equal budget?
So, Mr. Kabir, elections are is a contest. जैसा marketplace में contest होता है Pepsi versus Coke या Colgate versus Close-Up toothpaste. So, in the world of business, काफी stiff competition रहता है. Similarly, in the world of education, there is so much competition for students to get into good colleges. आप marks secure करते हैं, फिर admission form भरते हैं. People want to get into Aryabhatta College or Delhi University or all these. So similarly, electoral contest is also a contest. So we want the contest to be clean, fair, equitable, as you said, equal opportunity, and may the best man win, may the best woman win. ऐसा principle होना चाहिए. What happens is that, of course, elections में, as you said, the party which is in power, that is, which is running the government, has an undue advantage. उनके अंडर कभी-कभी they have the control of the media, or they have put pressure on the media. They can have sometimes they can use threats of income tax raid or CBI raid or something. They have the control of some of the organs of government which are supposed to be independent, वगैरह वगैरह. तो वो एक advantage उनके पास रहता है. So one reform could be that 6 months before the elections, we should have we should ensure कि शायद like a president's rule or something, that the ruling party ki power kam ho jaye. But this is just an idea I'm floating. But the other thing is, we could also have state funding of elections. Instead of each party raising funds, we should have a big fund managed by the Election Commission of India, and each party will get funding depending on how much vote share they got. So other BJP they got in the last election, they got 31% of the vote share. So they will get 31% of the funds. Congress got 24% or something, उनको 24% मिलेगा. समाजवादी पार्टी को, so that is called state funding of elections. But वो ऐसा नहीं हो कि state funding मतलब government of India से भी पैसा मिले and गलत तरीके से black money भी मिले. Unless the black money problem is solved first, or at least reduced substantially, we should not introduce state funding of elections. Then you can give equal treatment, as you said, give equal time on media. ऐसा नहीं हो कि 80-90% of media time is hogged by only one party. So at least on Doordarshan and other public channels, you can ensure all candidates get equal time. So this is a fairly complex, but I think the spirit of your question is right, that we have to, जैसे we also believe that in competition, there should be level playing field. And elections are also a competition. So we have to try and make it as equal opportunity as possible. And final point, Mr. Kabir, is that voters, let's not forget voter awareness, voter education, voter inspiration be important. Ultimately, voters ही तो हैं. मतलब वो सब लोग, everybody is chasing the voter. अगर voters अपना vote डालेंगे based on caste, creed, religion, emotions, and not look at real issues like inflation, joblessness, infrastructure, cleanliness, law and order, अगर उसको नहीं देखेंगे और सिर्फ religion को देखेंगे और emotion पे vote करेंगे तो मतलब उसको भी तो हमको ठीक ठाक करना है.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, sir. So the next question is from Priyanshu Singh. What if all elections were held at once? Will the spending reduce?
No, I don't think that's a good solution, Priyanshu Singh. That actually, because when a state elects its legislature, which is Vidhan Sabha, we have a system where vote of no confidence रहता है. If the government is not functioning, and if it loses the vote in its legislature, state Vidhan Sabha, it has to immediately cease functioning. We have to have fresh elections. लेकिन अगर सब जगह simultaneous elections होंगे, तो 5 साल सबको suffer करना पड़ेगा. Because otherwise you can't have this different. See, India is a very large country. I mean, each state of India is bigger than the countries in Europe. So I think I don't think it's a good idea to have simultaneous elections. And certainly we should not be doing simultaneous elections only to save spending. जैसे मैंने कहा ना, अगर आपको spending save करना है, तो there are many angles to look at, including voter education. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Sahaj Verma. Sahaj, you can speak up.
Mr. Sahaj Verma. Hello,
so let us go for the next. It is from Abhishek Kumar. Should it be a right or wrong decision to make education qualification mandatory in electoral system accordingly at all levels?
It's a very good question. So, जैसा मैंने कहा, we should at least make minimum qualification should be कि there should be no criminal case pending against the candidate. At least cases of serious crimes like rape, attempt to murder, kidnapping, extortion, physical assault, right? तो उतना तो minimum qualification होना चाहिए. आप कह रहे हैं कि can we have minimum education qualification? See, if India was able to achieve universal literacy, at least everybody has say 5th standard, 7th standard qualification, then I can understand. Unfortunately, our country is still not fully, there. So if you disqualify candidates because वो लोग उनके पास education नहीं है, then it is an unfair treatment to people in whose state education is backward. And it will be even more unfair because if you look across gender, the educational qualification of women compared to men in some states, unfortunately, is much below. So automatically you will be disqualifying a lot of women from standing. And finally, I must say that बड़े दिग्गज हो चुके हैं जो IIT, IIM, PhD करते हैं, but they have been known to be crooks and they are behind bars in jails. So highly educated does not automatically mean you're a clean candidate. उल्टा भी होता है. So on education, I am not so sure it's a good idea to put a minimum criterion. But on criminal record, I'm quite sure. Sahaj Verma is back.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So sorry for the earlier inconvenience. Firstly, thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. So, sir, my question is that over the last few decades, we have observed this consistent pattern of inflation, of a bout of inflation just after an election has been concluded. So, could it be attributed to the huge amounts of funds that the political parties, invest in their political campaigns? And if yes, then what are the possible ways to mitigate this problem?
So you're asking ki the election spending, is it leading to inflation? Is that your question?
Right, sir.
I think certainly there is an element. It's there because all kind of extravagant fiscal spending usually is inflationary. But in the overall scheme of things, if elections in the national election अगर होता है तो 50,000 crore अगर हम spend करते हैं, which is 500,000 crore in one election, but the national budget itself is 39 lakh crores. So as a proportion of national elections, it is not even 2-3%, you know. So I think it is inflationary. I agree with you. In fact, artificially, अभी उन्होंने रोक के रखा है. From November, Government of India has kept the petrol prices. They have not raised it. In fact, November के पहले they reduced the excise by 10 rupees. So I suspect that after 10th of March, when the election results to these 5 states are announced, you will actually have an increase in petrol prices. And what is happening in Ukraine, oil prices have already shot up. So the petrol prices are not being raised because of electoral considerations, not because economic considerations. So they want to hold off till that. So your question about the inflationary impact of election spending, yes, it is there. But I don't know if it is very prominent. So maybe we'll take 2 or 3 more questions, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir, completely. Yeah. So as the event is in a hybrid mode, one of the participants of the seminar room wants to ask a question. Yeah, may I know your name?
Ashwin.
Ashwin, yeah. Ashwin, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Good morning, sir. So I have a question. Like recently, there's a judgment that political parties are coming under the RTI Act, and we can ask the political party about the questions regarding all of these. So, do you think that if the RTI become more and more stricter to this political party, will the spending on the elections can go down and the transparency can be increased?
Excellent question. Excellent. Incidentally, ADR was our political parties are not under RTI, by the way.
So, but unfortunately. I have checked on Google, but it's saying that it's under the RTI.
No, they are not. They are exempt.
Is it necessary that it should be and come under the RTI?
Of course, it should be. Because RTI is applicable to all institutions which are in public life, which affect which affect the citizen, our life. Yes, and the most prominent organizations in our day-to-day life, har roj hum unka, we are influenced by them, is political parties. And parties are not, you'll be surprised to know, parties are not regulated by any law. Even a company or a trust or even a temple or a hospital or a school or a college has a lot of regulation regarding disclosure of its accounts and expenditure, income and expenditure, audited accounts, vagara, vagara. Here, a political party is not answerable to the public of India. Thankfully, the Election Commission of India can only ask for expenditure statement and a few other things, annual filing ka kuch rehta hai. And because of that, I think some information is available. But I agree with you that RTI should be applicable to political parties. The political parties are opposing it because they are saying we are private bodies, we are not public bodies. And hamara andruni jo decision making hota hai, RTI nosy people and mischief mongers will expose कि अंदर कैसे decision हम लोग कर रहे हैं. So they have been resisting it, but we have been in court and हमारी अपील पहले CIC को की थी, Chief Information Commissioner, then it went to High Court. So it's in litigation right now. But as of now, it is the political parties are not under RTI. In fact, some private members had introduced this law in Parliament. जो सफल नहीं हुआ, unfortunately.
Thank you, sir. It was a great answer. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Last question, maybe?
The last question is by our seminar coordinator and teacher in charge, Dr. Deepika Goyal, ma'am. Ma'am, could you please come?
Good morning, sir. This is Dr. Deepika from Ahmedabad College. Sir, I have 2 questions, probably smaller ones. So one is that we have often observed that the kind of the electoral process that takes place in educational institutions, so that's like a replica of what happens at the country level. And at institutional level, we have tried to reform them in some sense, but then the real the thing comes from what happens in the election, in the nationwide phase. So do you think that if we have stricter reforms at an institutional level, at a much more decentralized level, would we be kind of bring about reforms at a national level? That's one question. And the second question that I have is that it's always said that it's for the people, by the people, so but there is no accountability. Why and how can we do that?
So, ma'am, excellent questions. Thank you for the questions. The first question is relatively easier to answer, ma'am, because actually you're absolutely correct. If some of these ideas that we have on electoral reforms and making the elections cleaner, making it a level playing field, making it an equal opportunity and free and fair elections, and especially without fear and coercive factors and without appealing to base issues, very wrong issues like religion and caste and creed. So surely these reforms we should implement them at least at the college elections and DU kind of university elections. And I think we can also introduce them at village panchayat levels. Just hamare RWA mein election, I don't know if you live in an RWA and if you are participating in elections in RWA. I mean, we know all the candidates, everybody is given a fair chance. They don't go around house to house giving bribe, hamare se take 2,000 rupees from me. At least if such practices happen, immediately there'll be a hue and cry, right? I assume. So what we can achieve, I think if we start that sensitization at the lower levels, including university election, hopefully it will bubble up. That is a very good suggestion. I think we should at least insist that. On your second question about accountability is a very, the very basis of good governance is transparency and accountability. Transparency ka matlab hai all expenditure and all income that a public authority is doing on our behalf, whether it's legislature or government or housing society or BU, university, there should be complete sunshine on that. Humko dikhai dena chahiye. And accountability is anybody, if they take a decision, then they should take responsibility for it. Agar uska kuch negative natija hua, negative consequence hua, then there has to be penalty. What happens is that often, because of our system of perhaps cronyism or friendship and personal, I will take 2 more minutes in giving you a story. One of our friends became the information commissioner. And the RTI Act is such कि वो अगर कोई उसमें breach होता है, it is the only act in India where the penalty is imposed on the government officer. If the PIO does not release the information in time, then that penalty is imposed on the officer and deducted from his salary. Okay. So ये जनाब वो judge थे उस मतलब information bench पे, and there was a government officer. Unfortunately, he was the PIO, and जो जानकारी, whatever information was sought from the government department, he was not able to give, not because of his fault, because his colleagues did not give the files and information. So this judge had to impose a penalty on him. Then he told me, I looked at the man, uske bhi biwi bacche hain, he had a family, he had a lower middle class income. I felt pity. I felt I could not impose my penalty on that person. Oh. So, of course, this is out of empathy, but I was telling him, when you sit on that kursi, you're not going to act out of friendship. You should distinguish between your personal friendship and the kursi ka. So same thing about accountability, what you're asking. Right. Sometimes the decisions, if they're taken on the basis of personal relationships and, I don't know, quid pro quo, then the accountability goes far. So accountability means being able to take both good and harsh decisions. We have to be friendly, firm and fair, but firm to hona chahiye. Accountability, and also citizens have to ask, use the RTI. RTI is such a great, effective tool. Right. You keep sending questions to your elected representatives. Ki iska ye paisa hamare road pe khadda, there are a lot of potholes. Who has got the contract? How much is the? These kind of questions will keep the government on the toes. I think, like I said earlier also in the discussion, so of course we want government to be accountable, but the citizens also must demand accountability, Right. In different way. Right. Thank you. Right.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really, really grateful that you took time out of your busy schedule, to address our students. And it was a really, really brainstorming session for all of us. And our students will mail out a feedback form to you if you just get time. It's just a 2-minute form. Sure. Whenever you get time, you can just fill it up for us.
Thank you for inviting me.
I would like to thank you on behalf of the Economics Department and Ahmedabad College, and of course all the students and the teachers present here in the session for this very, very enlightening session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.